Chair Thompson.
Present.
Board Member Baltai.
Present.
Board Member Hirsch.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The next item is oral communications. The public may speak on any item not on the agenda. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak? Please raise your hand or hit star nine.
No raised hands at the moment.
Okay, I guess we'll keep moving on. Agenda changes, additions, and deletions.
No changes at this time.
Okay, thanks. Our next item is city official reports.
Yes, so good morning. My name is Jody Gerhardt. I'm the manager of current planning for Palo Alto. And thank you, Medina, for putting on the screen our dates for these ARB hearings. You'll see that the next two meetings, this meeting and the next, will be virtual. We're still remaining flexible for the rest of the year to see if we're going to be 100% virtual or we're going to be hybrid. So we will find that out in the near future. And the next slide, Medina, is you'll see that on February 17th, we're anticipating that we'll talk about the 525 East Charleston project. This is a supportive 100% affordable housing project. It is SB 35. And so there will, and it's also SB 330. So it will just be one public hearing to ensure that the project meets our zoning code, because it is ultimately a ministerial approval. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll move on to our action items. First item is 300 Pasteur. Recommendation on applicant's request for approval to allow an addition of approximately 37,000 square feet to an existing Stanford Hospital building to meet seismic standards, enable renovation of existing patient rooms and associated landscape changes. Do we have any disclosures among the members of the board before we start?
I visited the site again earlier this week.
Okay. Board members?
Yeah. Visited the site, the boards at City Hall. Also, that's it.
Thanks. And I visited the site at nighttime and also visited the boards as well, the material boards. Okay, I'll hand it over to staff to start their presentation.
Okay, good morning. My name is Emily. Let me pull up the PowerPoint. As stated, this is the first formal review for the SUMC Nursing Pod Extension Project at 300 Pasteur. The application is for a 37,116 square foot addition to an existing building. There is a couple of locations in the staff report where the exact square footage was not updated from when this previously had a preliminary application that was shown to the board on April 15th of last year. And this project allows hospital uses to be relocated from within existing hospital buildings to the new extensions, which will be seismically stable and appropriate for this use. The capacity of the extensions is 72 beds. And as shown on one of the tables in the plan set, there will be a 15-bed decrease overall as uses and hospital beds are relocated between the extensions and the existing buildings. The extensions will be 4 stories and match the existing plate heights of the existing building. This project also includes landscaping upgrades to the existing below grade courtyards and the promenade. This slide shows an overview of the guidance documents for the Stanford University Medical Center, which includes the CUP development agreement and design guidelines. The staff report notes the relevant design guidelines for this project. And if you have any questions, I also have pocket slides at the end that go into more detail on what these design guidelines require. This slide shows the elevation that was presented at the preliminary review on the top, and below is the current proposal. Additional windows were added, and instead of the flat canted panels, textured ribbed panels have been added. And the applicant will go into more detail on what those materials are during their presentation. On the side elevations, you can see they are very similar to the preliminary review. However, I believe the material at the upper portion of the building has been updated for consistency with the materials on the front. This shows some details about the landscaping. The left and center gardens will be viewing gardens for hospital patients. The path through the garden is for maintenance and emergency egress only. These will typically be not accessible to the patients or the public. And the one on the right will be usable open space and recreation space for the relocated psychiatric ward. Below on the left, that's actually a section of the right side garden. From left to right, it shows one of the bench overhang areas along the promenade, some of the proposed fencing at the promenade level, and then a section of potential amenities in that garden. The center one is a rendering of what the viewing garden could potentially look like. And the image on the right is the proposed benches, of which there will be several along the promenade. The recommended motion is approval of the project. Additional options would be sending additional items to subcommittee or continuing to a date uncertain. And the applicant has also prepared a presentation. Thank you.
On one of your slides, you had the side elevation of the existing and proposed. Yeah, maybe slide 6.
So it's not the existing and proposed, it's what was presented at the prelim versus what is being presented now.
Okay, I just noticed, so the one on, because they both say proposed on the suffix, they both have the same suffix. Is the one on the left the original?
No, it's the same as the previous slide. So top was at the prelim and then bottom is the current proposal.
I see. Okay, so the top in both cases here, the top is the prelim and the bottom is the proposal now.
Yes.
I was just wanting to ask, they look very similar. Okay. Thank you.
Is there a difference between the top and the bottom? I don't understand.
Not in terms of window location. I think the materials might be or are slightly different.
Yeah, and if you go up a slide, there is more difference there.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure it almost kind of looked like an error. So I just wanted to make sure there wasn't a mistake. Okay, so I guess we'll hear from the applicant now.
Thanks. I'm going to share my screen. Good morning, board members. My name is Molly Swenson, and I'm with Stanford Medicine's Planning, Design, and Construction Department. I wanted to thank you all for your time today to review our proposed addition to Stanford Hospital's nursing pods. You'll recall that we first brought this project before you last April for preliminary review and explained that this is part of the overarching renewal project at Stanford Medicine, and that this scope brings us one step closer to compliance with state seismic safety requirements. We also shared that while this proposed project is very much at the interior of our medical campus, it would front the pedestrian thoroughfare known as the Promenade, and so we have given a lot of thought to the pedestrian experience. We received a lot of valuable feedback from you during your preliminary review, and we took this back for further refinement. One of our primary focuses was softening the building facade, and you'll see this reflected in our updated design. I'd now like to hand it over to Pam Kurtz with Perkins Eastman, who can share with you the changes we've made.
I believe you're on mute, Pam.
Sorry about that. Thanks, Molly. I'm Pam Kurtz, principal at Perkins Eastman and lead on this design effort. First, a look at our proposed plan. For orientation purposes, north is roughly to the right. At the top, we have the new Stanford Hospital, the promenade, the bridge connection to the existing hospital, the 1989 nursing pods, D, E, and F, the proposed extensions, DX and EX, 2 view gardens, and a courtyard for psychiatric patients. A view from the southern end of the promenade with the new terrace area on the right with loose seating. You can see the rhythm of the trees, trellis elements, and large garden spaces between the new extensions. The trellises pick up the accent color used in the soffits at the new adult hospital on the left, reinforce the pedestrian focus, provide shaded seating areas, and reduce perceived building mass. Looking at the west elevation, you see that the massing follows the staggering technique identified in the SUMC design guidelines, and the scale is in keeping with the existing hospital buildings. The upper image is the previous design and our new design below it. The stronger horizontal band divides the elevation, and a variety of materials and textures have been included for a more engaging design that supports the pedestrian scale along the promenade and enhanced views from the new adult hospital. Here is the previous elevation with canted panels at a larger scale. And our new design, which engages with the promenade and its site elements, trellis, seating, planting, and decorative fencing, all supporting connection to nature and pedestrian activity. In terms of material selection, we have again taken direction from the SUMC design guidelines, including a neutral beige color palette for the high performance concrete panels with varying textures and replacement stucco at the existing pods. Shadow boxes at the windows use horizontal fritted glass, drawing on the language of the window baffles at the new adult hospital, but appropriately scaled down. We have also changed the signage to a lighter color, which you will see in the next 2 images. Our previous design and our new design. Based on your feedback, we have created a more engaging facade with a variety of textures and new fenestration. The new windows at the stairs show movement within the building, and the patient rooms provide views for patients and families to the garden spaces and promenade below. Trellises and planting provide human scale. Wang Plaza at the north end of the promenade, looking towards the adult hospital and new extensions. You can see the continuity of fencing and planting along the length of the promenade. Another comment that we would like to address is the penthouse visibility. We rendered the pedestrian experience at eye level, walking along the promenade to get a sense of the penthouse visibility. The penthouse is not visible or only partially visible the majority of the walk. And when it is fully visible, which you can see in the dashed red towards the bridge, the focus is it is in keeping with the existing penthouses on the pods and the new hospital. The focus is on the gardens and pedestrian experience along the activated promenade. I'd now like to turn it over to Audit Paul, who will provide more detail about the landscape design.
Thanks, Pam. I'm Adit Pal with BFS Landscape Architects, assisting Perkins Eastman in this project. So this view down the promenade illustrates that the architecture and landscape are quite complementary here, with the syncopation between the two, which Pam noted earlier as being created by the staggering of building massing. It creates an interesting and new urban street-like dialogue between architectural facade and greenery to help activate this promenade visually. And as can be seen in the earlier plan and perspective slides that she showed, the extensions which you see on the right, they're about 65 feet in length, each of them along the promenade. And the open space on that one side is over 7 times that amount. So the frontage of each of the D and E courtyards, which is partly seen in this view and earlier perspective views, is about twice as long as each facade. So as visitors walk along the promenade, the main spatial and visual experience for them is one of open space and vegetation framed by buildings. As was presented the last time, the steel fence that separates the sunken courtyards from the promenade, it's slatted in a modern yet random pattern for visual relief, and it balances the need for privacy with transparency. It also complements the narrow surface striations on the revised west facades of the extensions that Pam showed you. It's a corten steel-like color to complement and contrast with the vegetation on either side, and it varies in height, taller near the patient room windows for privacy and lower away from them. The interpretive signage, which is still under development, it'll narrate the story of the Stanford Hospital through text, graphics, and historical photographs across 8 panels. And the vertical panels will be lit up at night as part of an integrated approach to building and landscape night lighting for the entire promenade. The plantings at the D and E courtyards consist of a 2-layered approach. The layer closer to the windows will have strongly flowering familiar garden plants that can be seen in Palo Alto gardens everywhere. And these are to bring visual comfort to patients. And this is balanced by a textured yet seasonally flowering landscape further back in the middle of the courtyard, which is lower water use. There are biotic retention areas with river rock, and there are planted trellises on those rear retaining walls to complete the picture. And the large variety of flowering also really complements the habitat creation goals of the City Urban Forestry Master Plan. And this slide shows the south and center courtyards that Emily referred to were only for emergency access and maintenance. They're visual, and the buildings wrap around 3 sides, essentially forming a visual frame. In scale, they're about 7,500 square feet each in area, and they'll contain a variety of small to medium-sized trees that flower in different seasons. The sections at the bottom show that the landscape has been envisaged as a continuous buffer from the building on the left to the promenade on the right. And this last slide is the F courtyard, which is a carefully programmed outdoor space in the relocated psych patient outdoors facility. It's about 4,500 square feet in area with activity areas and garden plantings. And in that bottom slide, of which you saw a larger picture earlier for patient privacy, that fence is a sandwich construction with the slatted steel on the outside for consistency, and the inside is a warm wood finish on the inside for acoustic privacy. And it continues along the entire length of the F courtyard. So with that, thank you once again, and we'd appreciate your comments.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to this item? Not seeing any hands raised. Do members of the board have questions of staff or the applicant?
I have one. Who uses the lower courtyard? There are a lot of passage paths and interesting byways down there, and access to it from a gate, I gather, at the upper level, and a stair access from the pods themselves. But who will actually be using is it for maintenance only? There are some seating down there as well. Who will
can
use
you
it?
go back? I'll answer that. Molly, can you back up a slide? One more. So Peter, no, one ahead. Next. Yep. Oh, gone.
This one. Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah,
there's a
right,
delay.
Yeah, sorry. So the D courtyard to the left, these are both, as Emily pointed out, for patient viewing only. The D courtyard, the one on the left, there's a lot of utilities under it. There are sanitary sewer emergency tanks, there are storm water drain tanks. So there is a need for patient access. What you're seeing as those light rectangles actually aren't benches. Those are a lot of vault covers to go into vaults which operate the tanks. And so there's a gate which you observed and a set of steps going down for this maintenance access. The E courtyard on the right gets even more complicated because it actually has an emergency potable water tank underneath it and a vault room with pumps, which has been sort of hidden into the landscape. And this courtyard also has to serve as fire exiting. You see a staircase at the top left and there's one on the top right. So it's not only a maintenance courtyard, but it's also a fire exiting courtyard for that lower level. So that's why it's a ramp and there's no staircase. And then of course the F courtyard, which was the next slide, that is a user programmed courtyard with doors into it. And there's a lower acuity side on the left and a higher acuity side on the right, acuity referring to the level of patient observation. And these are also fire exiting courtyards. So if you were to come out in the left courtyard, you would go through a couple of secured gates into the right courtyard. And from there, you would go through a couple of secured gates out into the area between LPCH and this hospital and up the ramp into the Wang Plaza.
I see.
So,
any more questions? I have a couple. If we go back to the previous slide, the section I'm looking at is the one on the bottom right. I guess I wanted to ask in terms of program, what's happening in the building at the place that's closest to where people are walking? Because this section is kind of indicating that maybe that level might be raised, but I'm curious to know. There's like other images that make it appear as if the level's not raised. So I guess what is the interface between the building and the public walk?
Those are patient rooms that are along there, which is part of why they're private courts, so that you don't have visibility into them. So really all along the perimeter are generally all patient rooms.
Okay. And in the, I guess in the preliminary design, there were no windows that were looking onto the public promenade, but in this design there are.
Yeah, and actually for that end elevation, I thought you were talking about the ones we're looking at on the bottom right. The upper are patient rooms, and actually if we look at that elevation, you'll also see that the windows we have provided a fritted and baffling so that you don't have visibility into a patient. So one side is the stair, which here is on the left-hand side. So stair is filling that entire end. So you'll see people moving along that stair through those windows. And on the right-hand side, which is a patient room, the elevation, if you look at those people, you won't be able to see into that patient room at that bottom level. On the upper levels, you will be able to look down into the promenade. So the right side on this particular elevation is patient rooms, and on the left-hand side windows are the stair, and at the center is the corridor. So staff would also be able to see activity of promenade and as well as families.
That's the corridor you said.
Design, yeah.
Thank you. I have another question. For the material that we're seeing here that is the horizontally textured.
The ribbed, we call it ribbed, but yeah.
The ribbed. I guess I was wondering, in terms of its relationship to the adjacent material, do the ribs stick out, or is the whole thing inset, and are the ribs aligned with the adjacent material?
Yeah, the outside faces ends up being flush. There is a detail in our set. I don't know if you'll be able to find it, Molly. That'll
I
show.
think we have it at the end
Yeah.
of the deck. Yes, let me scroll through too.
Do you know what page?
Yeah, well, just because it shows a little bit of that detail.
So Pam, is there also a detail in
Yeah.
the plan set that was printed for the ARB?
Yes. All the details are really. Yeah, it was actually what's part of the presentation, but essentially it lays, I think, flush with the final panel.
It's on detail number 1 on sheet A 4.5.
Thank you. Thank you. And I think too, one other thing we were doing, on the other elevation, you'll also see there's that textural quality, that ribbing that happens above the windows. So there's continuity of that materiality for the entire extension. And I believe, yeah, you do have a sample of this, I think, material.
That's right. Yeah, you're able to see that. Those are the majority of my
I
questions.
saw everything, Osma. I just don't feel I need to disclose that.
I'm sorry?
I've seen all the samples.
Oh, okay. Because you didn't mention material work before.
I don't believe I need to disclose that. It's a public thing.
Just could you describe what's happening in the middle there on where it's
Yeah, that's the corridor between the patient rooms.
so you'll actually see into the building at that point?
Not at that lower level. It is fritted, screened. It's so you won't be able to see at that bottom level, but you will be able to see out and get natural light also from the end. And that's also for kind of privacy for patients and families.
Okay, so it's above, it's private at the lowest level there. It'll be completely private. It looks
Correct.
like you're looking at something inside, but
Yeah, it's
in reality,
reflections. Yeah,
that's going to be different kind of glazing at that point, or?
correct.
Okay, a little hard to determine that here. 3, shadow box. Middle pan color.
And that appears to be inset as well, right? This glass in the middle has
Yes, it is.
dimension there. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you. We can keep the images up if we like. And I guess we'll bring it back to the board. Who would like to go first?
Yeah. Of the three,
Of
pick a number.
I don't care. I'm happy to offer what little I have to say, which is not much. I can support the project as presented. Thank you.
You want me to go next?
Yeah, go for it.
So I'll probably be a little more controversial than that. I want to talk a little more in generalities. I think that generally speaking, this is a big improvement from where it was before, and the scale is being brought down. But it seems to me that I'm going to call it very generalities here. That this is a mall. This is, if you compare it to malls everywhere in the world, there's so much usually that's going on. In an urban mall, you have storefronts, you have people eating on the street, which you do have here, eating on the street. And you have, you don't have ping pong as you have here in one area, but frequently you do have a lot of other things. By the way, Medina, you don't have, I gather you probably don't have my slide pictures that I was hoping to show. But I want to talk a little.
I do.
You do.
Board member. Yes.
You
yes.
do. Okay.
I do.
Great.
I can share them. I can share my
Yeah.
screen.
Could you do that?
Yes. Just a moment.
Thank you.
No problem.
And
Okay.
you know what?
Is it this one?
Yeah, that's one.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's just run through them. This is Chuck Close. You know, as you're far from Chuck Close, you get the image of the man. When you go closer, you have a closer one? Yeah, well, sort of sideways, but the same sort of thing. You get closer you get, the more it dissolves into a texture like that. So there's a change in, you know, an exciting change with this incredibly to what he did, you know, because of eyesight issues. Okay, let's go on to the next one.
The next one looks like was an email, right? Or a blog.
Let's try and just see what it is.
Okay. Is it this?
Yeah, well, this one, right. I just threw this one in. I don't expect you're going to really take it seriously, but you know, there are things you can do by painting on the surface. This is some wonderful painting exercises that really shake up the experience as you walk along and come in contact with the surfaces here. I don't expect that you're going to think seriously about this, but it's just an incredible thing that it was done in Europe somewhere. Okay, I think that's good enough on that. You got another one, Dina?
Yes. Let me quickly do that. Just
there is one that's really more applicable here.
Let's see. Sorry. Here it is. Let me quickly open it. Yeah, Peter Wagner. I know this art.
That's the one. Yeah, of course. This is Peter Wagner in the business, department. It's a changing pattern, a constantly changing pattern, and it's really quite exciting. And as you would, if you could imagine something like this in this environment, it would be an attraction in itself. Then the light, the color, the changing patterning, it even makes a wonderful little clacking sound while it changes. Peter Wagner's doing several other pieces throughout Palo Alto, but this is the one that really grabs everybody who goes to a lecture in that B School lecture room. And you just sort of say it's enlivened a space that would otherwise be just a very normal one. So I think there's one more, I guess, Medina, that we could show. And I'm pronouncing your name wrong, which I'll correct from now on.
No, you pronounced it correctly. Oh, sorry, I was on mute. And I don't see anything else. I just received that, I think,
Okay.
but maybe I may be wrong. But that's all I have for
this
now.
is good enough. I don't really want to take up too much more time on this, but so let's get back. It was a Victor Vassarelli. Anybody who knows art knows that he comes from the Bauhaus and that he dealt with rectangular box-like forms that he created into rather wonderful images of abstraction. So get back to the elevation just of the building itself. You know, the patterning of it now is a good pattern. Could we go back to just a straight on elevation?
Sure.
Well, yeah, I'll wait for you. Yeah, so, okay, well.
I'm back
straight,
to the,
yeah,
the
that's
straight
good.
on elevation.
Oh, yeah, good. Okay,
There
you
we
could
go.
stop it. There you go. So, it's admitted that, we all felt that it needed a lot, and I think it's vastly improved here. But my sense of this is there's a lost opportunity that this building works so well as a pod. It fits. If you look at the plan and you say the way the pod worked to extend this building out to the pedestrian street here is a really incredible improvement to the whole site planning. And I absolutely adore all of the sunken gardens, and understand now that it was even more complicated than you can imagine, trying to deal with all of the utilities that are below it. But what we have here is a kind of a bit of a reference to the hospital building across the street, with the horizontality added to the center panels here. And you have a framework for it, and it's a very strong framework, and it's a proportional one that's very nicely proportioned. But I sure do miss the possibility at the bottom of something like what I've shown in those illustrations. It just seems to me it's dying to add an element, a grand element of attention to it, rather than just become another piece of nicely designed architecture with panels on, even if they're lighted panels, that people are going to read once and never read again. Whereas if that bottom framework were somehow a part of the experience, and it was a varied experience, just like what I showed you in those illustrations, wouldn't that be so much more exciting? Wouldn't that be a much better way to deal with this mall and create a piece of excitement? Across the way, the building is cantilevered, boldly cantilevered, I should say, out to the edge of this promenade. And then it has a use function with all of the dining, et cetera, that eventually, when everything is back to life again, is going to be an exciting thing. The whole of the promenade goes down to the plaza, where you look at the Edward Durrell stone building and all of that traditional texture that he used, and hanging lamps, et cetera. By the way, take a look. There's a hydrant right in the middle of the access point there. And I saw some wonderful illustrations of what you could do with a hydrant to make some art out of it. But this is the sort of the centerpiece here, where these pods come out. Why isn't it possible to put some art like the Wagner, let's say, in the bottom piece of this, and have it animate the public way? All right, having said that, I can accept this. As Peter said, it's okay. It's nothing great. It's better than it was. It isn't a out of scale expression. It's detailed nicely, but it isn't exciting. It's more or less a standard building. Frankly, I would have preferred to have seen something in the middle that is less concerned with showing where the solid elements are behind it, and there's one more kind of glassy element that went all the way from bottom to top. That would help it as an abstraction, so you aren't so much deterred by looking at a pattern of what's going on behind it, because in a way it's two elements here. And then I just want to add that it seems to me that if you had something like a moving art piece that went from one side of the pod to the other and then picked up again on the second pod, so that there was a sort of a continuity in a piece of art that went all the way up and down the promenade, you would have a much more exciting experience for the people who use this walkway every day. And it would be could be a changing one. It could be, I just think it would be a big improvement. And if you use the framework that you've created here, it would reinforce the building in some way as well, because it would be a repetitive image, let's say, or similar image as it changed, especially if you use something like the Wagner from one to the other. So this is my comment. I think there would be an opportunity for even more excitement in the mall. And I think the mall is such a great idea, such a wonderful thing for all of these workers here. But wouldn't it be nice if they had something a little bit more than coming away from the operation they've just experienced, the human conditions that aren't always so great, and the tragedies sometimes that happen in hospitals, to something just delightful instead of ordinary. That's my comment. Thank you.
Thanks, David. I think I'll try to be brief. I think my comment is similar, a little bit different to Board Member Hirsch, but similar in the sense that I do think it is improved. The canted panels did provide that spatial depth that part of me is a little concerned this updated design maybe lacks. But then this updated design has a texture that the previously design lacked. I think we're both, when I was there yesterday, I noticed, as David mentioned, the building just across the way has this really intense cantilever and a lot of visual interest. It's like blue and has a lot of color along that ground floor. And I remember Board Member Liu mentioning a while ago, he had some concern about how this will sort of compress that promenade's feel, because it'll be, making it smaller. And I did get a sense for that as well, and had a thought that maybe on the ground level that interfaces with the pedestrians, maybe, could that be inset a little bit? I wouldn't want to sacrifice patient rooms, but is there something that we could do to kind of differentiate the ground level from the upper levels? I think it's nice that you sort of set a datum there, but for that experience going on the promenade, there's like seating and stuff, so people will be chatting and they'll be looking, this will be kind of what they're looking at while they're having dinner or lunch. So that was my main concern. I mean, the other elevations, I don't really take any exception to them. It's kind of interesting. There's a building above the adjacent building that also has kind of square rooms that show up at nighttime. So in terms of context, that seems to work really well. And so I think similar to Board Member Hirsch, I think just the ground level, something a bit more interesting would be good. So I guess I want to ask if Board Member Bolte has any comments after hearing what Board Member Hirsch and I have had to say.
Well, sure. Thanks, guys. Honestly, I feel that the two extensions just come too close to the mall. They're just physically a 65, did I hear, looks like about a 65 or 70 foot tall piece of building that's, a few feet from the walking distance. And I didn't like that at first. I still don't. I think this is a fair compromise for the needs that they have. And because it doesn't go the length of the mall, I guess I think that's okay. In response to David's comments about the artwork and stuff, I agree. It's wonderful to see them animate the space, and it's all really nice stuff, David. I think you might question whether it's the appropriate place to put them. I think you have such wonderful landscaping going on here. And what really strikes me every time I go there is just the wonderful people opportunities. There's just such a bustle of life going on there. A lot of it is part of the hospital scene. It's tragic. People are hurting sometimes, but just seeing that activity to me is the sculpture you're talking about, David. And sometimes it's good for a building to just step back and let life take place. It doesn't always have to be something an architect or an artist jumps at. I think in this case, perhaps the hospital building on the other side is really interesting. The way they've incorporated little cafes and benches and terraces. And then the way it gets used, a day like yesterday, a sunny, cooler day in February, was still packed with people just sitting on benches, having conversations, taking a break from their treatment, complaining about their boss, doing all these things people do. That's the sculpture, David. And in this environment, I don't know that I'd want to see more of that. So I'm quite comfortable letting this building be what I call a background. It's an extension to a nursing part. It's not the main hospital. So I feel very comfortable with that. My only wish would be that the building were further from the promenade. I don't think that's going to happen. And I don't think I'd want to slow this down for that. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Okay. I guess
I'm open to, if you want to try to tweak the details of the window at the lower level, or maybe that lower band of ribbing could be different. But this is a pretty good application, gang. They've done a good job here. The landscaping is astonishing. It seems to me it deserves our support.
I think I would also be ready to support, and I think potentially we could put an item where we ask the applicant to consider something on that ground level, whether it's insetting it a little bit more or adding some more visual interest just on the ground level. Perhaps that could be on a subcommittee item.
I mean, I certainly will support anything along those lines if you two want to put a motion out there.
What do you think, David?
Yes, I would. I feel something just without this graphic is, I don't know. I think it could still be done, you know, even if it's done less for its showiness than for its appropriateness. You know, you can choose something that in a moving graphic that isn't kind of just a dynamic, but it's also emotionally passive. You know, it would be a study. You know, it would be a study if it could be done as a graphic piece. And I agree with Ozma's comment here that that if there could be if it could set in a bit more, it would emphasize the form of the building a bit more. Now I know it's dealing in one case with a patient room and the other case with a staircase, neither of which really do very much for that ground floor. And so that in terms of the area that needs some architectural work, that in fact is the area that really needs it. And the rest of the form and proportions above are quite delightful. As I say, I think that the centerpiece could be uniform in its character and not divided by floors particularly, with a channel glass or some ribbed glass going vertically up the whole of it would sort of divide the abstraction of it as an element in itself and makes it a little, and receding the bottom would be definitely an improvement in the form as well. And I, at this point, don't mind the mechanical kind of tie-in at the top, except that, of course, you really won't notice it because it's further back. It's only seen here because it's an elevation. But I do think that you could almost say that you could explore the graphics as a separate presentation, and everything else could kind of move ahead, because I'm sure you're on a deadline here and we want to present this to you as an approved project so that you can move forward here. Seems like you're catching up on the areas up to this point. So it's probably important to get this approved all the way in order for it to proceed. With a holdback to say further, you look at the base of the building almost as a sign, more minimal change that would involve perhaps a sign panel review along with it as a graphic treatment, et cetera. So it didn't hold up construction. So to the extent that I would like to see you think about it, create a little more creatively, as you have in so many of the other aspects here too, especially the landscaping. And I agree with Peter that there's a life to the plaza, to the space, to the walkway, and that people are going to use it and will use all the seating as you come out. There's so much of that right there in the plaza at the front, at the hospital's front. So consider what's been suggested, but emphasize that in terms of the formal architecture, I would approve it, except for the ground floor, which needs some more dimensional change in order to make it really an effective piece of architecture.
Can I respond to some of the comments?
You may.
Thank you. So thanks, David.
Sorry, can we have the chair just for official purposes?
Sure. Typically, we don't usually allow that. Do you have a lot of comments or just one small one?
Just briefly to respond about, stepping the building back, we would lose patient rooms if we were to proceed with that. So just wanted to put that out there. And then also in terms of art, we do have a robust exterior art program, and we have pieces at the northern end of the promenade in Wang Plaza and also at the southern end of the promenade. And we really did try to make an effort to concentrate activity at the northern end of the promenade in Wang Plaza, the southern end of the promenade with the terrace seating area, as well as across the promenade underneath the cantilever at the adult hospital, where there's future food and beverage and that type of activity. We also have a dog park. So the stretch along the extensions was really meant to be a more passive, contemplative space with opportunities just for sitting, resting, and then we had the interpretive panels in front of the building to give it a little bit of interest.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll move that we approve this project subject to the findings, and add an item where we ask the applicant to consider an alternate treatment to the ground level, the base of the building as it interfaces with the promenade, not to change the program, but to provide more visual interest at the base, either it's using dimensional changes or other means, and have that item go to subcommittee.
Ozma, would you want to make that into a motion?
I just moved that we approve it and have that item go to subcommittee. Is there a second?
I'll second that, just for the purpose of moving this along. I would like to ask staff, if we send this to subcommittee, does that prevent them from moving the project forward?
The applicant at their discretion could apply for building permits. They just run the risk of some changes happening in this area.
Have they already applied for building permits for this?
So the building permits are with the with OSHPD.
I don't want to see us have another month or two delay for this. What's going to happen if this goes to subcommittee? What does that mean?
So I think with subcommittee, we don't have the same noticing requirements, so we could get it on the very next hearing if the applicant is ready with some new ideas.
But they do have to do that before they can go forward. Then.
The motion is to consider the change. So
They would need to draw up some options and present them to a subcommittee, which at the earliest would be on the 17th.
I would like to make a sort of a side comment. I don't think we're talking about really making such a change that it would change the interior program.
no,
Oh, that's clear. Osmo made that point.
made that clear. Yeah. It's really more of a architectural treatment.
Okay, well, look, sure, that's fine. So I've seconded the motion.
Okay. Can we have a vote?
Yes, yeah, okay, agreed.
Chair
Whatever.
Thompson,
Yes.
Board Member Baltai,
Yes,
Board Member Hirsch,
Yes,
motion carries 3-0.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to the applicant team. Let's move on to our next item, which is the Arb Awards.
Osmo, are you going to appoint your subcommittee now for this so they know who they're going to have to deal with?
I can. I was thinking it'd probably be Board Member Hirsch and myself.
I agree. But it's your call.
Okay, I have that noted.
Okay, I think since we're doing pretty decently on time, we can just roll into the Arb Awards. So I guess this is we'll be considering the eligible 11 projects and associated photographs, and we will try to decide on the award categories and award winners.
Yes, so I do have my presentation that I've shown before. If sorry, 1 second.
I do see that former board member Lou is in the attendees. We'll have a chance to ask the public if they have any comments as well after we go through this short list.
Okay, there we go. Is it showing now?
Yeah, the PowerPoint is showing.
Okay. Although I think it blocks me out of all my notes.
Jody,
Okay.
did you fill in a lot of photos there?
I had tried to, and something went sideways on me. So I
Those
don't know.
photos just look good. I mean, they're really improving.
What do you should be seeing the front screen, right?
No, we're seeing notes.
We're seeing your tabs of your notes.
We're
You
seeing
know,
one
folks.
note.
Oh, are you seeing?
Yeah, that. Mhm.
Okay, did
Yeah,
it
you
move? Is it changed now?
Now,
Yes.
now
You
it's
need
the
to start.
PowerPoint.
You need to start the show.
I did.
It must be on
At the top, you need to switch presentations. Top button.
I'm usually better at this. Okay.
Okay, it's been a while.
I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to try and reshare. Screen 2. Yeah, here we go. Share. Is that better? Is that more presentation style? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But now I really don't know where my notes are. Oh, I'm showing you my notes again. Okay, this is a fun one. Okay, we have the slides up, right? So yes, this is the presentation. Let me see if I can move to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so I do have, we have in your packets, you do have the list of eligible projects. I believe, are we down to 11 or so projects?
We had 6 that had 4 or more votes, and then we had the remainder of that, I guess the 5 had less than 4 votes. And so I think the one that's up on the screen was one of those that were in the less than 4 votes. And I think we have to decide if we want to do honorable mentions.
Could we go back to something that Peter said last time, which I felt was appropriate, but wasn't sort of decided on, that we really ought to give one project a prime spot here that it was recommended it was the fire station, and I agree with that because it's the most incredible project of the bunch in my mind. And that everything else gets a kind of an honorable mention rather than equality among equals, because the fire station seems to me to be a step above. I'd like to propose that idea that Peter mentioned last time again.
Do we have a staff presentation or something, Oswald? What's the structure of our discussion here?
Yeah, I was expecting to kind of go through the short list again, if that's in the staff presentation. If it's not, then we can.
I don't,
Right.
yeah, I think you have the actual list itself with some of the notes is in the staff report. I can go through the slides, which the addresses are just, sorry, a little bit in a different order. But I do have all the slides if you want me to continue with that.
Do you have the 11 on the short list?
Correct. Yes, I have the 11 in my presentation.
All right, I think let's just go through them so we can see them one more time.
Yes.
Okay. And
Yes.
then if we wanted to, we could also think about if I can't see, but if previous board member Lou is here, if we wanted to promote him or other members of the public that wanted to discuss this project, we could potentially do that. But I'll run through the presentation and then we can have that conversation. So we have 611 CalPER. And so we were talking about maybe materials and concept realized for this one. And here's another, the entryway, a picture of the entryway. The fire station project at 799 Embarcadero. And for this one, we were thinking, because it's a public building, I think was the main category for this one. And here's some other pictures of that, looking
Great.
onto the park and things.
Mhm.
And then 180 Hamilton. This is the Nobu restaurant, sort of the base of this hotel was renovated. And so this would be for materials and exterior renovation was the categories we were thinking about so far. So here's some other shots of how that had been redone. And then 3223 Hanover. This one, here we go. This is an office project. It does have the bay window, I'm probably saying that wrong, but it also has the butterfly roofs, was one of the main features of this project. So here's some additional photos that show those butterfly roofs. And the main butterfly here with the wood material is a stairway that goes into the parking garage. And so the way that was done and the ARB added to that concept let some light down into that parking garage. And the Colometh on Manuela, this is a religious assembly use. So I think we were, and this is also LEED platinum. So it has that interesting wood exterior. And here's some other shots. This is the redo of the Junior Museum at 1451 Middlefield. And again, a public project. So this is the entrance from the street. And then this is the front entrance to actually go into the museum. 1400 Page Mill is a research park project. It is net zero. So I think we were talking about sustainability for this one. And then I did take a picture from above that shows a fair amount of solar panels. There is the open waterway that runs through with the bridge over it, those sorts of things. 1050 Page Mill. This does have the technology curve built into the facade. And it was, we were saying design concept for this one. And this is an additional picture showing the layout of the 4 buildings. And it does have this center courtyard area. .355 University is a facade change. And this one also had was a seismic upgrade with the seismic bonuses. And then I tried to get some pictures. You can't exactly see it in this picture, but in the section, you can see that the first floor is actually pulled back so that people from the street can see into the basement area. And then the bottom picture here is on the side street. Yeah, it's kind of an L shape. So on the side street, we did have them do a mural and a display case on that side. That was part of this project also.
Yeah, that was a very good mural. Doesn't show it well though.
And then I believe this is the last one. 701 Welsh is the Lucille Packard Children's Hospital. And I think we were looking at this one because it's a very large building, but it is, if I can go to my last slide, there it goes. Even though it's a large building, it seemed to be, broken down very well to have a more human scale as you walk by it. So that would be the end of my presentation. And sorry, I can bring those back up if you'd like.
Yeah, maybe keep
Is
the
it still
presentation up somehow. Or...
There we go. Is it still showing my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. My driving today is not good, sorry.
Okay, I have an idea actually that might make this easier. I guess is it okay if I ask you to run through that list really quick one more time?
Yeah, do you want the paper, the Excel sheet or the photos?
The photos.
Okay. So here we go.
I have a way that we can sort of have them all up at the same time. It requires me taking very quick screenshots.
Okay, so tell me when to move.
Okay, go to the next one.
This is still the same. So here's the fire station.
Here's the next shot for the fire station.
Okay, here we go.
Too late. I already got the first one, but we know what it looks like. Let's go to the next one.
180 Hamilton.
Let's go to the next one.
Hanover. Or do you want the, here, we should do the butterflies.
Okay, next one.
The synagogue.
Sorry, guys. Okay, and next one.
You want this or the front door?
At the junior museum?
Yeah, Junior Museum.
Okay, I think we're good. I got everything I need. So can I go ahead and share?
There's more.
No, it's okay. I got those.
Okay, you're just gonna do the top 6 you're thinking?
No, I took screenshots before.
Oh, okay. You were faster on the draw at the end. Okay.
I actually see that board member Lou is the only attendee remaining. Would the board be okay if we brought him up to a panelist so that he could provide his feedback?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm promoting board member Lou to panelist, former board member Lou.
Former board member. So while he's coming on, I feel like I'm missing one. The Cheesecake Factory. That's the one that I'm missing.
Something's missing here. The other University
Yes.
Avenue commercial, right?
You're right. Cheesecake Factory. Okay, let me.
Hi, board member Lou. Are we able to hear you?
Hey there.
Hey, thanks for joining.
No problem.
Good timing. So what I have here, this is a program called Mural, where we can see all of the projects, and then I can put a sticky note where we think that category would be right for that project. We do have what's noted in the Excel sheet. So potentially for, we had a sustainability category. Does anybody remember the other categories that we want to throw in here?
Did we finalize on categories, Osma?
No, we should do that right now.
I would like to speak to that issue, and I don't know if I don't want to keep repeating what I think, but I think the same thing. But I don't know if we finalized it or not. But if not, I'd like to suggest that we, as David alluded to, have a series of categories where they're broken out essentially based on how the building is, its use of the building. And the reason I think that is that's how we've broken out the field of architecture. We in society look at buildings that are either public, institutional, or commercial, or residential, things like that. So I propose that we have categories along the lines of the best public or institutional building, the best large commercial project, the best small scale commercial project, then to me, the best storefront. There's a whole segment of work that's just doing storefronts, then the best sustainable project, and then I really think we should have the best overall project. So I know, Yosma, you're not necessarily in sync with that, but it might help if we just finalize the categories first. I've also put out 6 of them. I think that's a reasonable number. So to me, it's large and small scale commercial, mostly because we do a lot of commercial stuff on the ARV.
Large.
Yeah.
Commercial. Can you just repeat them so that I have them all on stickies?
Yeah, so sustainable, institutional, storefront, large commercial, small scale commercial, and then institutional, commercial, storefront, sustainable, and then best overall. Just best work in the past 5 years in town. And that's 6, and I think that's a good number.
Okay. Remember, Hirsch, do you have thoughts on these categories?
I only have a problem with it when something like sustainable, let's say, it doesn't match up in design quality overall. While I think it's essential that every project pushes towards sustainability, the others are different functions. They're use functions. Sustainability is a function that really ought to be a part of every project.
I agree, David. It's a nod to being politically correct. It's something we all feel so strong about, that we're trying to just sort of really praise a building for really going the extra mile on the sustainable factors. It is a logical inconsistency with what I'm saying.
It's logical inconsistency. Where'd the Cheesecake Factory go on here as an image? There. Okay.
Yeah, I
thank you.
have a picture of it too, or if you grabbed one already.
Okay, thanks.
I would like to have another category called residential.
Yeah, I think
That was
we-
explained
I would
already.
like to leave that one blank.
Yeah, there isn't one
We're
this
making
year.
a strong statement that there just has not
Yeah.
been any good residential design.
No, that's correct.
Yeah.
You may
and
want to
staff-
consider mixed use as a category, mixed residential, commercial. Because you
Yeah.
have,
Do we have
Residential,
any
mixed
contenders
use.
for mixed use?
And mixed
There
use,
aren't
yeah, that's
any.
right. Mixed use.
There aren't any projects here that would fall in that.
Nope.
611 Cowper is mixed use.
It is? There's residential here?
I don't
It is.
think so.
Isn't it?
And it does say, it does
Oh,
say
yes, it
mixed
is.
use.
The top floor is
Yeah, I recall that
residential.
it was residential.
Yeah.
But I don't know that this had enough votes.
Well, could we kind of mix those up and have mixed use / residential?
Well, if you use the guideline with the not SB 35, but yeah, SB 35, mixed use is more than 3/4 or something, isn't it? What is the limitation?
2/3, but many of our projects don't reach that because of our zoning code. So for,
I think when we say mixed use, it's always residential and something non-residential. That qualifies in our consideration of a mixed use project.
Yeah, it does. Mhm.
So I want to ask board member Lou if he has thoughts on the categories.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of thoughts on the categories here. The 611 Cowper does have it's just one penthouse on the top floor,
Mhm.
and the other 3 floors are office. I think it's occupied by Amazon.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's fairly typical of our mixed use projects. There are other mixed use projects that have more residential that were on our list but didn't get as many votes. So I'm thinking there's like one on Page Mill, there's one on El Camino, like the Olive Garden. So there are other projects that have more units than 611 Cowper.
yes, and in the past, we did allow 1 unit like that. However, for the last many years, multifamily is 3 units or more.
Right, so it wouldn't.
Yeah, and then the 611 Cowper, that is the penthouse it was condo mapped as a separate unit. I did actually check that recently.
Okay.
Can I ask something here? If we're Peter, if you're suggesting that we break it down to 6, which I think is a more manageable number, what happens between, let's say, the what is the one on the far left called again? Upper top, 1451 Middlefield, the Junior Museum, and the fire station. Are they the same category then?
They are the same category. That's right.
So also just for the organization here, all of the stuff on top received 4 or more votes.
Yes. Oh,
and
good.
all the
Okay,
stuff
thank
on
you.
the bottom received 3 or less.
Okay. Okay.
And then I am also adding categories that were alternatively described.
Okay, that's very good. Thank you for explaining that. 1, 2, 3.
You have 2 storefront. Okay.
I was beginning to think that maybe the ones on the top that I thought were, well, are we going to comment on this? I mean, do we all agree that if we're going to pick 6, that we pick the 6 that are on top?
I think the 6 on top are the ones that would get the awards. I think we have to decide what category they belong to.
Yeah.
And so I think the only issue with having one institutional category is that 4 of these are institutional projects.
I was just wondering, just to do a final, I know there aren't 5 of us anymore, they're just 3, but whether we all agree that those are the 6.
Yeah, I'm afraid, Osma, I kind of want to play hardball here. I don't agree, and I think we don't have the votes to keep it that way, so I'd be rather willing to change it.
Okay. So
I think 611 Cowper is an outstanding building, and it's a shame.
well, I agree, and I think that that the hospital building is probably the best substitute for that. In other words, I would take that one, move it down, and move 611 up because it's such a good example.
Why wouldn't we honor the votes that we did last time?
Sometimes it's just that the votes aren't there now. We didn't fully finalize it last time, so that's the end of it.
Yeah.
Well, our mandate here for the staff report is that we need to, keep building off of what we had before. And
Good call, Osma. You want to run it? How do you think?
Yeah, I agree with Peter. I want to speak up on this. I agree with Peter, and I also want to comment that I myself pushed for 701 Welch on the previous meeting, but I think in comparison right now, I see that the Cowper is a stronger candidate.
I don't think that's right. I think we did all of this work to bottle these 6 down as our winners. And the only thing we didn't do last time was pick the categories. And that's our only job today, is to pick the categories.
Okay, look, I'm going to respect your call, Osma, I think.
I do too, but I think that making this slight modification doesn't really destroy anything. It's just an opportunity to
If I can speak up, my recollection from past awards these decades has been that 6 is a fine number as the regular awards, and then you can decide if there are honorable mentions or a certain category you want to highlight from the lower set. That worked in the past, just history.
Okay, based on that thinking, I would give 701 a honorable mention because it's special concern for children at a scale of children, but not as a piece of exceptional architecture. That was pretty much what Alex commented on when he commented on that on 701 Welch, that he felt it was so well scaled to its clientele, the kids. Clientele is not exactly a good word for that, but
I think, like I said before, I think it's fine if these bottom ones get honorable mentions, but we all voted that the top 6 are getting awards. So it's just a matter of what category we're choosing for them.
I make a motion that, I'm sorry to push you, Osma, but I think that we should switch the Cowper with a Welch, and then I feel very good about this selection. But I do think that maybe we should.
But just because you want Cowper to get the award, would you
Yes,
switch it with any other of these other projects?
I mean, of course, we could have 7 instead of 6. That's certainly not unreasonable also.
I'd be open to that if you would prefer that.
Okay.
So you want to add this up to
Yes,
here?
I do. I would definitely.
Well, it's in your right to make a motion.
Yeah, I move that we.
Can we, Osma, would you mind having Alex chime in on what he thinks is a good thing to do? He has such an institutional history with the ARB.
Yeah.
Member of the public, does he have an opinion about this discussion?
Yes,
Alex?
I would like that.
Oh goodness, you guys are gonna put me on the spot.
Well,
Of course, Alex. This is our chance.
Okay, well, I have to. I think in a way, I agree with David. I think in my mind, that Children's Hospital could be bumped I think it could be bumped down. And I think that's in my mind. I think I see where you're coming from, and I think I agree with that. I think mostly because a lot of the children's hospital, a lot of the great things in there are in the courtyard, or they're inside the building and they're not open to the public. So, so I guess I'm okay with that. The bumping up of the 611 Cowper is a little trouble. There are a couple of troublesome things about this one, is that it got a lot of parking exemptions because of the existing lot. It was actually on 2 lots, so it got like a double parking break. And I think that's going to rub some people the wrong way. And then there are a lot of people who are very upset about these huge penthouses. I mean, the penthouse is just gigantic. So if we're saying this is mixed use, it's not really like the best mixed use. It's not ground floor retail. You know, it's 3 floors of office plus 1 penthouse. So it looks great. I think it's. I think the materials are great. The terracotta is great. But I think the point about having mixed-use buildings, the whole idea of having a mixed-use building is to have like a lively building that's occupied 24 hours of the day, that, you know, attracts people and is part of the built, you know, urban environment. So I think this one looks good, but I'm not really sure that in terms of all the different uses, that it's really the best type of mixed use project.
What's your opinion, if I can interrupt you, Alex, what's your opinion regarding us reworking some of the decisions that we made a month ago?
Oh, I think you guys are in. You guys, it was not finished, right? It was not all finished. I think you can rework. I think you're allowed to rework it however you want. I think that's your decision.
Okay, then Osma, I support what Alex just suggested. I'm very comfortable reworking this with just the 3 of us.
Yeah, I think we had an initial straw poll that had the 11, and then we had a secondary straw poll that brought us down to the 6. But so I think we were trying to continue forward, but it is not a closed item, so it can be changed. But
how much reworking do you want to do? Because a lot of effort went into going down to 11 and then down to 6.
Okay, well, I guess it's basically the hospital building, I think, is not worthy of an award. 701 Welch. And I think we should consider the 611 Cowper not as mixed use, but as a commercial building. I'm listening hard to Alex's member of the public comment about that, and it does color my thinking a little bit. But those are the ones that I distinctly feel strong about. I really disagree with the straw poll we had last time.
Yeah.
I feel that circumstances have changed, and that's the way the world is. And I'd like to push for what I think is right.
Yeah. So would you be specific in terms of what you're asking for? Are you asking to swap Cowper with Welch?
I'm asking to remove Welch from the list of award winners. Yes.
Okay.
And I'm asking that the 3 of us consider Cowper, but also the 3 of us feel open to considering the other ones on the bottom as well as getting primary awards.
Yeah.
I'm asking to say that the results from the last meeting were a straw poll and they were not binding.
Yeah.
But wouldn't these also be a straw poll? We're not moving to, we're not doing a motion, right? We're also
not yet. No. We're just sort of, what I want to do is I'm trying to set up the ground rules for, the format for our discussion here so we can make it happen. This has got to be done today, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
must be.
I'd like to see that. My idea on having a category of mixed use or mixed use residential really is to point out that we just don't have one. I don't think we have an award-worthy mixed use building in town in this past 5-year cycle.
yeah, and I assume that's why the chair put those in green.
Yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to say that. 611 Cowper is not an award-winning mixed use building.
No.
By any stretch.
I mean, we don't have those categories because we don't have anything to go in them, but I'm not sure. It's a little, honestly, passive aggressive to like create a category and put nothing in there.
That's why I'm searching for every tool in the book to try to get some things through to Palo Alto. If that's what it takes, that's fine.
So we
Can I
have like a blank board.
Can I jump in here for a second, just to add a little to this? First place, I think that we are mostly all agreeing that 701, and thank you, Alex, for your comments about it, really oughtn't merit it. So in terms of 611, you know, it's a wonderful piece of architecture. I agree with Alex that it isn't something we hope to see a lot of here in Palo Alto. And there are many, many people who will say, hey, listen, we need some supportive housing here much more than we need something like this. And all that comment is very good. But architecturally, it's a very good building, you know, so it's hard to not give it an award for its design aspects, you know, that would fit well with everything else we're voting for here. But I could be convinced that for the social reason, it's not a good idea to give it an award. I could really be convinced of that. And I think Alex made a really good point there.
Wait, say that again. You could be convinced of what?
The fact that the building, we're talking about 611 CalPER, correct, that it's not our best example of mixed use.
That's correct. I couldn't put mixed use on this one as a description. I wouldn't want to put mixed use. You could show it in the category of as one of the best pieces of architecture in the last 5 years, certainly, and not show it as mixed use.
I don't think having those categories make any sense unless we're wanting to have a blank board at our award ceremony.
I would assume for the residential categories, you know, this conversation will be part of the minutes, but maybe that's where it would drop off.
Mm-hmm. So for that, if it could be left off and just get in one of the 6 as a commercial building.
I guess let's take a straw poll about swapping Cowper Street with Welch.
Hold on, I don't want to swap it. I just don't think Welch should be getting an award, period.
Oh, so you just want to bump Welch down to honorable mentions?
Well, I'm not sure we've agreed to do honorable mentions either, but I want to remove it from the award winners list, yes.
And I could agree if the 3 of us are really going to make these decisions now, I can agree with Peter on that. As a piece of architectural form, it's, you know, it's nothing unusual there. Whereas 611 is quite unusual for formal reasons. So I would substitute it.
So I think let's take a straw poll about swapping Cowper with Welch specifically, so that the Welch would go to the honorable mentions and Cowper would go up to the award winners. You take that straw poll?
I'm kind of inclined to drop.
No, I just said I don't want to do that.
Okay, so there's no.
No.
So do we want to take a straw poll about moving 701 Welch down?
That's what I want to do.
Yep.
Okay, so that's 2 votes for moving 701 Welch down.
I disagree, but 2 beats 1. So I'll put that here.
And then do you want to do a straw poll about moving 611 up?
I think I'd feel better if we had an idea of what our categories are.
Okay, so do we want to do categories for the 5 that are left at the top and start there?
Well, I think there's two kinds of categories flying around, and we probably should resolve which way we're going with it. Osmo, you're putting out categories, I'm assuming it's you're doing this, that are basically parts of an architectural design strategy.
It's an architectural characteristic that we feel they've excelled in as part of the design.
Yeah, and I feel that just becomes so vague to the public. And it's just so on how most people look at things. It's not like how architectural awards are typically done. And so I don't know that it's wise to do that. You said the best materiality. I think most people have no clue what you mean.
It's a good use of materiality for the materials. We feel, I mean, part of our findings are high quality materials. So
well, you could put categories related to our findings too, but to me, these are architectural awards, and all good architecture should have a lot of these things in it. I'm trying to isolate them like that.
We're trying to see what they excel at, right?
Yeah, I don't. I think as categories, we just institutional. I think we use the ones we had to begin with here, and that's good enough.
A lot of these are institutional.
Well, so let's cut to the chase. I think the fire station is just plain the best building overall.
Best building overall, 100%.
But 2 out of 3 of us seem to be flat out on that. So can we just do that as a vote then? I don't know. How do you want to do it? I mean, you got 3 of us. We got to push for something. I think then if you look at the remaining institutional buildings, you have the Junior Museum, you have the synagogue, and what was the third one? The hospital is gone. So it's one of those 2.
Can I say something as well? Over the years, there's no requirement that you craft a category for each one. You can just say these are the top 5 award winners, and then you can give an honorable mention for specific items. I don't think you have to narrow it down for the award winners.
We don't need categories?
I don't believe you do. No, I think that was a method in the past to say, well, we have these other ones that are so great. Let's give them honorable mentions for specific things.
That's an idea. Just don't put categories out there.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea.
So we have our 5 winners, I guess.
Because
It's just these 5.
Wait. Did we ever agree that 611 Cowper was not going to move up?
That's a separate discussion, David. I want to first structure things, and then we can come back to that.
Okay, fine.
So, and with the winners, you're going to be able to have a whole sort of paragraph of explanation. And so in that, explanation, you can explain what are all the great things and why it's a winner.
You don't have to have one reason why, right? You can say many reasons why.
That solves all of our problems, right? We can just say these are the 5 winners.
Then we can mix, we can mix in your language request here, Ozma, and we'll talk about materiality as one of the elements of a building design. Site work is another aspect of a building design. And, we're going to get into trouble with the congregation building because it has parking under it that exceeds the, and it's compared to our present day issues of parking under a school or not under a school, but but so there'll be issues here, but site planning without the parking on that one was a great.
Well, parking may not be the reason it's getting an award. If it gets an award for
it's
other
not
things.
going to be the parking for sure. We better not talk about it.
I don't think it requires pontificating over, what's not perfect about each project. It's just, these are great projects, and they deserve awards as some of the best projects in the last 5 years.
That's right.
And then, and then the other ones, if you want to give more awards, then I think it would help to say why, because maybe those are not, triple threats or whatever, all of the things that you want to see. They're just, 1 or 2 aspects. I don't know.
Right.
Okay.
Ozma and David, can we try to not put out so many? Can we just limit it to 5 or 6 or 7?
It's 5 right here.
But not have honorable mentions too.
No honorable mentions. Exactly.
You don't want honorable mentions?
I think you dilute it. When you put too many buildings out there, again, you don't have anybody that wins.
Exactly.
We narrowed this list down from like 200
That's right.
project list.
Yeah, I think we should be down to 5 or 6 at most, tops. And I really think we should have the best, and then the rest are honorable mentions.
I don't think I agree. I think we have 5 that are winners, and then in the description you can say what we want to say about them, and then I mean we can maybe bring this list down, but I want at least 2 or 3 honorable mentions.
Well, that can take a, I think that we emphasize the police building as the best, absolutely.
I don't think we do that.
And
I
that,
think it's
and
just
that
a
the
list
other
of names.
buildings are that we have are.
How many award winners, how many total, Osmo, do you think we have between best, award, and honorable? Even if we have those, but what's the total number that you think we should put up there?
I think
Like
it
you
makes
said.
sense to have a list of the winners, as Amy mentioned. We have 5 winners,
Okay, and then how many others?
and then we can have 2 to 3 honorable mentions. I'm okay to bring this list down.
So that's a maximum of 8, is that right?
Sure.
Okay, so I think 8 is fine if we can stick to that number.
Okay.
That's the far end of what I'm comfortable with, but that's the low end of what you are, so we're getting there, right?
Yeah.
David, do you agree with that?
Well, my preference would be for 6 awards total.
Okay, so Osmo just compromised at 8. The boy, Osmo, can you go down to 7 then?
We'll go down to 7. Fine.
Okay, so let's agree. Let's
That's
have a
hard to
vote. So
do.
we're fixed on that. We're going to go to 7. Is that I move that we provide 7 winners total for this year's categories,
That's including honorable mentions.
including everything. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Somebody going to second that then?
I don't know that we need an actual
We
motion.
don't need a motion. This is strong.
Yeah.
Whatever. I want to move it along.
Okay, so 7, so we need to
I-
reduce some honorable mentions.
I agree.
So then the next question, Osmo, is do we have one that's the best and the rest are just winners? Or do we have all 7 be equal, or do we have some honorable mentions?
Well, should
I
we
don't agree
focus,
with one best.
should we focus on the honorable mentions first, narrowing those down now that we've come to an
I think
agreement?
we should focus. The real issue is whether we have it be the best or not. And David and I have said we want it, and Osmo doesn't. But
It'd be the first time.
It'd be-
That would be the first time in the history of awards that there's one top winner. I mean, that would be odd, in my opinion.
I think it's a huge mistake. I don't think we should do that at all.
so speak again to that. It convinced me why it's a huge mistake.
Well, I didn't know that we haven't done that before, but precedent is a good one. And then also, I think we have interfaced with these projects, you know, a percentage of what that actual project is. And if they win, they win. I don't want there to be a hierarchy. I think these each excel at different things. I don't think the fire station has shortcomings, by the way. It's like, it's a building that's fine, but like these other things have other things they excel in. And so I think the winners are the winners. We don't have a best.
I'd like to add to that to say I would be very reluctant to say a city building is the winner, you know, because we have private sector projects as well, and it looks odd that we would call ourselves out as, you know, the best of the 5.
Can we get
Well, I
Alex's opinion on this?
I have a little opinion on it. I'd say that the private projects don't have all of the restrictive issues that public projects have to go through with in the city.
I'd like to hear from Alex, actually.
Okay, you don't want to hear from me, huh?
Yeah,
I know how you feel about that.
our opinion is out there. I'm just trying to be persuaded otherwise.
Yeah, Alex, what do you think?
Oh, goodness. I think my thought is to pick the award winners and not do the best. And I think I have a couple reasons. I mean, I think one is Grace was fairly opposed to that. Second is that I think that we only do this every 5 years. And I think things change over time. But I think if there's a project that's overall that's up there in the top 5, then I think that's pretty. I think that's good. Like it's good enough to get an award versus like an honorable mention. And if you're saying it's best, then I think you're also kind of implying that you've applied the same standard to all of the projects. And I don't think that that's necessarily the case. Right? I think, I mean, obviously, like the Cheesecake Factory storefront didn't have to do the same level of issues as these other projects. So yeah, it seems to me not fair to say that one somehow is higher. If you had some sort of criteria where you were scoring all of them, then maybe. But I think this is just, I think it's like too subjective to say that one is better than the others.
Okay, thanks. Alex, what's your, Ozma, if I can ask Alex one other question regarding the categories. Do you think it's a good idea just not to have categories?
Oh, I think it's okay not to have categories as long as you have the you have a description and a narrative to go, a story to go with the photo.
Great, thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
I'd like to voice my agreement with Alex here because I think he's right. I think we ourselves are being seduced by the fire station's detail, and it's really, really important to us. And that as architects, you see it that way. That beautiful use of materials and detail all the way through the building. But I agree that we should treat them equally because they are solving, many of them solving different problems. For example, the Junior Museum has all kinds of trees and things that had to be preserved in courtyards. So the site planning and the way in which they used the site and turned the entry towards Lucy Stern and created kind of a community of buildings there is really different than a lot of what the others are solving. The storefront is really a pretty simple but beautifully done proportional idea there, but simpler than, for example, the Junior Museum. So I agree, they should be lots of good reasons why they should be kept equal in the category. So I retract
David and I
my
have
thought.
been talked off the cliff, Ozma.
Wonderful.
I did. I just jumped.
We want to do this together. So then do we have awards and honorable mentions or just all award winners?
All award winners in my mind.
Oh, so you want 7 award winners versus 5 award winners and 2 honorable mentions?
I'd like 6 award winners, but my
We agreed
recommendation.
on 7. That's already been agreed.
We agreed on 7, but we don't know what 7 is for. We agreed that 6 are worthy projects, but the 7th one, we just have a number. I would suggest that if we are going to pick 7, if we have totally required ourselves to pick 7, that we pick the sustainability one for the 7th. And only and it gets explained for that purpose,
So you're proposing that 611 Cowper goes up to the top row, and then
yes,
the one that says net zero here on page mill, the 1400 page mill.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm not really so happy with it as a design, but particularly, but
yeah, I don't know that it's got much architectural merit in a classic sense. Its merit is that it's so sustainable.
Which is worth an honorable mention potentially.
Yeah, that would be the way I would prefer it. If it's going to be in, it should come in as an honorable mention, and then I prefer the 6 at the top, including Cowper.
What do you think?
I don't feel that strongly about Cowper. I'm kind of happy with our 5 winners as we have them at the top. I'm happy to note Cowper as an honorable mention along with 2 others down here. Probably these 2, the net zero and the concept design realized one.
I'm absolutely opposed to the concept design.
Yeah, I don't think that building should get an award. I'm
Okay.
sorry, I don't buy it.
It's so cool. Nobody else is doing this kind of stuff.
It's just an applique onto a box.
Yeah, me too.
That's
That's my feeling.
structural.
No.
Okay. So we can rule this out, I guess.
Well, we got to pare it down some. Okay, I think that the Nobu restaurant is great, but it's not in the same category as the rest of them. So if we're going to take some out, those are my choices.
I'm okay to agree with that.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That puts us at 8.
I think we need only one storefront. I don't think that, I think we keep the one we have.
Throw this one
I
out.
think the Cheesecake Factory is probably the better of the two as storefront designs.
Yep.
Okay. So
And we've
Five.
already,
701 Welch is off, right?
okay, so I could imagine
this
that we could
one.
go back
Wait,
to
no,
Welch.
We don't want to forget about this guy.
I want that to get next, though. I don't think that's worthy of an award, 701 Welch.
Well, maybe for the, even if they're interior, a lot of them, because they're the recognition of the sensitivity to children, I think of Welch is really quite amazing.
Yeah, I think for Arb Awards, though, I mean, we're dealing with mostly the exterior. There is some human scale in the exterior, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you,
I
Jody.
think having passed by that building a little bit more recently, it's really grown on me over time. I know the pictures don't really do it justice, but when you're there in person, it's actually, it's not bad. I think they've done a lot to try, at least on similar applique, I would say.
Somehow Osman, not bad is just not convincing enough for me. I mean, we've got to do more than that. I can't support 701 Welch.
I still like 701 Welch. So David, do you want to take it off the list altogether? Or do you want to keep it on?
No, I'm just thinking if we've already agreed there have to be 7, I'm happy with 6.
Well, we're at 8 right now, David. So 701 Welch, where do you stand?
Well, have we moved Cowper up?
Not yet.
Yeah, but we're sort of slowly working our way towards that decision.
Can we just do it?
I don't know.
I mean, I think we have large.
Do you think 701 Welch doesn't deserve an honorable mention, David?
Of all of the ones down here, I think I would prefer 701 Welch to.
And that's 0.
Yeah.
I would agree. I think 701 is a better building, at least aesthetically.
Okay, go for that then.
Okay, so we're ixnaying that 0.
See, I compromise.
Sometimes.
So then, are we doing honorable mentions, or do we just have 7 buildings?
I'm still a fan of the honorable mention. Now we have to put our green check marks. And I guess I'll make a different colored check mark for the honorable mention.
well, I think you have your 7, correct?
We
You
have our
have-
7, but I think we have yet to decide. It sounds like maybe Peter and David might want to move one of these up to the award winners.
Yeah. Do we want to just delete the red ones?
Yep.
For
Delete them. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, just fully delete them at this point. Maybe not the stickies if.
We're here.
Yeah.
Yes, I think 611 Cowper needs to move up.
I agree.
I don't know how David feels. Okay, so that's kind of
Agreed. Mhm.
It's a really fine piece of architecture, independent of all the other issues around it. And ultimately, that's what I think. So we have 1 honorable mention and 6 award winners.
Uh-huh.
I'm okay with that.
Yep,
That's
that
fine with me.
satisfies me.
Okay.
I move that we accept this list in front of us as the final award winners for this cycle.
Yep, agree.
Seconded by Hirsch.
Second by me.
Should we do a roll call? I mean, a vote call.
Yes. Chair Thompson,
Yes.
Board Member Baltai,
Yes.
Board Member Hirsch,
Yes.
motion carries 3-0.
I should have asked Alex if he had any comments.
Alex has said enough today.
Sweat off my brow here.
Really appreciate it. Alex, if you have
Lot of
any
work.
final comments, let us know.
No, good job, guys.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you, Alex, for your
Thank you.
input.
This meeting would have been so different if it weren't for you.
We need you
I'm
back.
proud of you. This is never an easy process to distill
Uh-huh.
years worth of projects. So congratulations.
All
Thank
right.
you, Amy,
Thanks,
as
Amy,
well.
and Judy, everybody for
Gave
your
us
time.
some sage advice.
All right,
And Jody, we all did it. Come on.
keep going, I guess.
Okay, and so we all agree with the main categories that we've put here, because we do want to divvy these up to different board members to talk to the architects that put these projects together to get more detail, maybe get some, higher quality resolution photos,
Oh, yeah.
that type of thing. We need to, pull together a presentation and also just have some details about why it's an award winner.
So we all have to assign ourselves to buildings.
It would be helpful.
So we have to write the text too, Jody, with you doing some editing. Is that how it's going to be done?
Do you guys have preferences about which buildings you want to write the description of? I'm claiming mine right
Peter
now.
gets the firehouse, damn it,
Do you want the
You can
firehouse?
do the firehouse, David. I think I'd like to do Kol MF, the synagogue. I was just speaking to Randy Pop about that building. He was very involved in it at the end.
Oh, was he? Yeah.
I put my name on there.
Well, you can do that one. I don't care.
Okay.
I can speak to Ken Hayes. I know him well. It's easy.
Do you want the Cowper one?
Or unless David wants to. I don't, whatever.
I'll do the Cowper one. David gets the fire station. So
Maybe I should go talk to Hayes, because
Why don't you do that,
know
Dave?
him too well.
okay. All right. So David gets Cowper.
Are you
and
going to
then
switch the
Peter-
fire station?
So
Does Peter
I
get the
wouldn't-
fire station then or not?
Yeah,
Who's
do you
doing
want
the fire station?
then, Peter?
Peter?
If David gets Cowper, do you want the fire station?
I was going to suggest, Osman, do you remember the people who did the junior museum?
I don't think he was on the board at that time.
It was CSW, and the architect is now working on another project in Palo Alto. I can supply you with that information.
It was a delightful design team. You may really enjoy meeting them if you talk to them.
Okay. Here, if you want, you can have Colameth and I'll take Hanover.
Yeah,
You want that?
I was suggesting that you don't do the Middlefield Road, the junior museum.
Oh, why?
I think you would like to meet and talk to those architects. That's why. That's all. It's just a personal thing.
Oh, really?
I think they had a vibe similar to yours, and it might be fun for you.
Okay.
That's all.
I think because we have 7, one of us might need 3 anyway. So
I don't mind talking to those guys,
that would
Osman, if
leave
you want
Peter
to.
with the Cheesecake Factory. Are you okay with that, Peter?
Sure.
All right, so
No,
Peter,
I'm-
you've got Colameth and the Cheesecake Factory. David's got Cowper and the fire station, and then I have the remainder.
Okay, that's good.
Does that feel good to everybody?
As long as I don't have the hospital, I'm fine. Whatever you think.
I'm fine with. I like the hospital. I'm a fan.
You go for that, Osman.
So,
And we're okay with in the yellow, kind of the main reason why it got an award.
I think we decided we weren't doing categories, and we'll
Let's
just.
remove the yellow tickets. I mean, I don't want those in the.
It's just the descriptions that we've been discussing.
I think it's just one of the reasons it got an award, I guess.
Yeah. Well, each of us has to write a paragraph about these buildings. Is that it, Jody?
Yes, please.
Oh, boy. Okay, and so the yellow note is.
But that's why you're calling, the architect, because they can help you with that as well.
Well, they can
And
give
they
us
can-
photos maybe.
Yeah, give you professional grade photos to put on,
Boards.
display.
Yeah, because ultimately, I think we've got all those TV screens in the lobby of City Hall, and so we'd like to put them up there if we can.
And when you talk to the architect, to make sure you get all the names of the architect team, the team that worked on that project, so we can also include them in the recipients.
Okay, so tell us what we have to do here. So we need to contact architects and
Team.
get pictures. Do we need
So
to
we
get
can
them so
supply you with the name and the contact of the applicant, which is often the architect, and then they will be able to say who else worked on the project. Maybe there was a landscape architect or artist, or I don't know.
Do we get the engineers as well, or just basically the design people?
The whole team.
The whole team, yeah. Okay, fine. I think it's a good idea.
And then I guess I'd want to let the architect know if they're making a board for us, what the format in terms of size, dimensions, landscape.
Do we need physical boards, or are we just going to do, websites and TV screens? I mean, that's a question.
I guess in the past, it's always been both. Well, when we had TVs, then it became both. But it used to be just easels in the reception. So the question is, when are we doing this with council, and are we going to have a reception with food and all that like we've done in the past?
Mm-hmm.
So currently we're in Zoom meetings, and if it is put off for a number of months, it could be in person. Otherwise, it's silly to have boards, physical boards.
Now, can I suggest a couple of procedural things here?
Mm-hmm.
Out of the gate, the chair of the ARB should just send an email to each of these applicant winners and let them know formally. And then if staff could give us a clear write-up of what information we need from the winners, so we have a consistent, both a graphic format, and if we're providing the names of design teams, what's involved. Just send a message out, and then each of us can go out and get that information for each project that we've been assigned to.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's crazy to just sort of talk it through right now. Amy, you probably could just write down in a few seconds.
Yeah, I'll work with Jody to get that done.
Just whatever you think is best, and maybe also put a timeline on it so we know when it has to be done by.
It's a good idea. Deadlines are important, especially if we're identifying a future meeting date or something.
But if you could put out there how you see it all playing out. And then also, I think it's good if you, as the chair, actually make the notification.
Yeah, we can pull together a template for you.
Past. That would be great. Thank you, Peter. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Okay, so I don't think we have any subcommittee items. And then our next item is the election of the vice chair. So do we have a nomination for vice chair?
So I nominate David Hirsch to be vice chair of our ARB committee.
Great. And David Hirsch, do you accept this nomination?
Yes.
Right. Well, let's do a vote. Do we have to move? Do we have to do like a move, or can we?
It should be a motion that's seconded, so I move that we make David the vice chair.
Okay, I'll second.
I can't vote for myself.
There's so limited people. It's hard.
Okay, I will conduct the vote. Chair Thompson.
Aye.
Board Member Baltai.
Yes.
Board Member Hirsch.
Well, yeah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, is he able to vote on himself? I guess the answer is yes, right?
Yeah, it's yes.
Motion carries 3-0.
All right. Congratulations, David.
Okay,
Yay.
thank you.
All righty.
I can't sing though.
You're practicing, David.
Yep, start practicing now.
Be the first thing I
I'll
delegate.
practice singing.
Okay, so do we have any board member questions, comments, or announcements?
I do have a few announcements. Let's see. So as far as going for staff members, we're currently 100% out of the office right this minute because of the Omicron surge. As best I know, we are going to go back in the office February 28th. That will only be probably once a week being in the office, but it means that we can open our public counter. And so if people need to walk into the development center, they could make an appointment and then we'd be able to meet them in person coming in March. Again, we have to remain flexible. You know, things can always change, but that's the plan so far. And we do have virtual meetings and, you know, phone calls and emails. There's other ways to reach staff. People are not required to come in. It's just that we may have that option in March. As far as the ARB interviews, because we are down 2 board members, council is going to be reviewing the latest ARB applications on the 14th. And then they're hoping to have the interviews on the 28th. If that all works out, then potentially we could have new board members for March. And Chair, you were bringing up the Cal Avenue discussion. I believe the mayor had talked to you and you wanted to put that on a future agenda.
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's anything specific, can you email me? Otherwise, we'll just sort of generically put that on the next agenda. I assume for 217.
Yeah, I'll try to get in touch with the mayor to see if I can get more concrete direction from the city.
Okay.
What we need to do on that.
Okay. Those are the announcements that I had.
Mhm. Any other announcements, comments, questions, concerns? All right. Well, thanks, everybody. Meeting's adjourned.
All right. Have a good afternoon.